Have you ever walked away from a conversation? But you can't quite put your finger on what just happened. They didn't yell. They didn't say anything obviously cruel. But somehow, you're left feeling small. Guilty. Off balance. That's not your imagination. Some people don't argue, they manipulate. And they do it quietly. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just long silences, half smiles, and words that twist in your chest. It's a slow unraveling. And it often hides behind politeness, or calm voices, or "I'm just trying to help." But that calm? That's not peace. That's control in disguise. I want to talk to you gently today, especially if you've spent years second-guessing yourself. Especially if you've ever thought, well, they didn't really do anything wrong, right? Let's pause right there. You don't need bruises or blow-ups for something to be abusive. Emotional manipulation is quieter. It shows up in the pauses. In the way they don't talk. In how they avoid your questions and flip your concerns back on you. You start a sentence like, "I felt hurt when." And they respond with, "Well, maybe you're just too sensitive." Or they sigh, go quiet, and look away. They're not yelling. But they're still punishing you. And over time, that silence? It teaches you something. It teaches you not to bring things up. Not to ask for too much. Not to rock the boat. That's not love. That's control, without raising a single voice. I've seen this happen in marriages where one partner never says what they're upset about, just withholds affection. Or with adult children who give their parent the cold shoulder for days, just because a boundary was set. Even in workplace settings, where someone forgot to CC you on that important email, again. And each time, you're left wondering. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? That question. It wears you down. Because it's not just one moment, it's hundreds of small ones. It's emotional erosion. And it's hard to name. Hard to explain. Hard to talk about, especially when others say, "But they're always so nice." So if you've ever felt that. If you've ever thought, "I'm the only one who sees it." I want you to know. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're noticing what they don't want you to name. Manipulation isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. But your body still feels it. That knot in your stomach. That anxiety when the phone buzzes. That confusion after every talk. You are not imagining that. And you don't have to explain it to anyone to trust yourself. If you feel that tug in your gut, that sense that something's off, even if no one else sees it, listen. Because the people who manipulate silently? They count on your silence too. But today, you get to speak. Even just to yourself. Even just to this small corner of peace, right here. We're going to keep walking through this together, gently. You don't need all the answers today. But you do deserve clarity. And you deserve your voice back. Let's take a breath, and when you're ready, we'll keep going. Because once you start noticing the quiet ways people control, you can't unsee it. You might start remembering all those moments that didn't sit right. Like when you brought up something that hurt you. And they didn't get angry, they just went cold. No words. No response. Just distance. And you ended up being the one to say, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." Even though, you were the one who felt hurt in the first place. That's how silent manipulation works. It flips the roles. You go in thinking, "I need to express myself." But somehow, by the end, you're the one apologizing. Explaining. Doubting yourself. That's not a healthy conversation. That's power, disguised as calm. And here's something important. Just because someone looks composed on the outside, doesn't mean they aren't being cruel. They may not scream. They may not use harsh words. But silence, when used to punish, ignore, or dismiss, is still a weapon. Especially when it comes from someone close to you. Someone who knows how much you hate conflict. Someone who's learned that you'll come running the moment things feel off. They don't have to raise their voice. Because they know you'll bend first. I want to offer something here. A tiny shift. Just a quiet tool you can keep in your back pocket. When someone gives you the silent treatment, instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" try asking yourself, "What boundary did I set that made them uncomfortable?" Because often, it's not that you hurt them. It's that you stopped people-pleasing. Or you asked for something reasonable. Or you said no for once. And their silence? It's not sadness. It's punishment. That's not your fault. Here's something else that happens. They'll say one thing, and do another. They tell you they're fine. But their tone, their body, the energy in the room, it all shifts. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. Trying to decode 1,000 unsaid things. Wondering if you should bring it up again. Or just let it go. That guessing game? It keeps you in their control. Because as long as you're the one overthinking, over-explaining, over-apologizing, they never have to take responsibility. You're doing all the emotional labor. You're carrying the weight of the relationship, alone. And after enough time, you start to think. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I really am too much. You're not. You've just been taught to shrink yourself around other people's discomfort. But you don't have to do that anymore. If you say something calmly and clearly, and the other person shuts down or turns it into a guilt trip, that's not on you. You are allowed to speak your truth. You are allowed to need things. You are allowed to set limits, without being iced out or punished. Here's something you can try. Next time the air shifts, next time you feel that cold silence creeping in, try saying, gently, "I can feel the distance between us. If you're upset, I'm open to talking when you're ready. But I won't chase silence." You don't have to say it perfectly. You just have to remember that you are not responsible for someone else's refusal to communicate. If someone is upset, they can use their words. That's what grown, respectful connection looks like. You've done enough mind reading. Enough peacekeeping. Enough bending. You're allowed to stay steady, even when someone else pulls away. You're not cold. You're not selfish. You're learning how to stop being emotionally controlled by silence. Take a breath. You're doing the work. It's slow. It's painful sometimes. But it's brave. We'll keep going, and in the next part, we'll talk about how to respond when the silence turns into guilt, gaslighting, or pressure to just move on. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Because if you've ever tried to bring something up, and they went silent, then came back like nothing ever happened, you know how confusing that feels. 1 minute, you're walking on eggshells. The next, they're acting like everything's normal. No apology. No reflection. No accountability. Just a reset. Like your pain never existed. This is one of the hardest parts. Not the yelling. Not even the silence. But the pretending. The way they skip over it all like it wasn't a big deal. Like you should just be grateful they're speaking to you again. And maybe part of you is. Because that tension was unbearable. Because you didn't want to fight in the first place. You just wanted to be understood. But when someone avoids every uncomfortable conversation, when they never meet you in the hard moments, they're not creating peace. They're maintaining control. And that is not your fault. You may have been taught that speaking up is making a scene. That letting things go makes you mature. That forgiveness means silence. But here's the truth. Healthy relationships don't avoid conflict. They work through it. With care. With honesty. With both people listening, not just one. So if you've been made to feel like your needs are too much, like your voice ruins the peace, I want to gently ask you, Whose peace is it, if you have to stay quiet for it to exist? You were never meant to carry all the discomfort just to keep someone else comfortable. Sometimes they don't yell. They don't insult. They don't explode. Instead, they manipulate in softer ways. Guilt. Withdrawal. Delayed replies. The cold shoulder. Then they return with small kindnesses, like nothing happened. It's a cycle. You feel pain. You speak up. They retreat. You chase. They return. You forgive, but you never fully feel safe again. And maybe you've spent years in that cycle. At home. At work. Even with your grown children. Maybe you've been told things like, "You're being dramatic. I just needed space. Not everything is about you." And maybe you started to believe it. But hear me now, gently, it was about you. Your voice matters. Your feelings aren't too big. You are not imagining things. If someone constantly makes you question your own reality, if you find yourself editing your words just to avoid their silence, that's not love. That's not respect. That's emotional control, even if it looks calm on the outside. So here's what you can try, not all at once, but little by little. When someone withdraws without explanation, instead of chasing their approval, pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what they want. Not how to fix it. Not how to make them happy. What you need. Maybe space. Maybe validation. Maybe just the reminder that their silence isn't your shame to carry. This is how healing begins. Not by changing them, but by coming back to yourself. You don't have to prove your worth with silence. You don't have to chase connection that only exists when you behave. You get to exist fully, even when someone else is uncomfortable. That's the kind of peace you deserve. And maybe no one ever told you that before. Maybe you've had to earn love your whole life. Or walk on eggshells around people who said they cared. Or silence yourself to keep the family okay. But now? Now you get to choose differently. Now you get to unlearn the lie that calm silence is better than honest truth. Now you get to speak, even if your voice shakes. Even if they don't like it. Even if they go quiet again. Because your truth matters more than their comfort. And your peace matters, too. So if you're watching this and nodding, or if your chest feels tight with recognition, you're not alone. Leave a comment, just one word if that's all you can say. Seen. Healing. Learning. Whatever feels true for you right now. You don't have to explain everything. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep choosing yourself, one moment at a time. You are not asking for too much. You're asking for what's fair. And it's not too late, not at 35, not at 60, not ever, to reclaim your voice. You deserve peace that doesn't require your silence. And I'm so proud of you for being here. Let's keep healing, together.